In this video, I'm going to react to the true reason why the F22 Raptor dominates anything in the sky. Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. This is the place where I react to music, media, sports, anime, anything related to popular culture. I'll watch it with an open mind and give you my 100% honest reaction to it. And if you could please hit that like button early, I'd really appreciate it. Now, this should be genuinely fun because, as you guys probably know by now, anything related to military tech, military aircraft, weapons, things like that, hierarchy structure, I find really fascinating. And the F-22 for a long time has kind of been the gold standard when it comes to fighter planes. I mean, it tells you all you need to know. The fact that the US government refuses to sell any F-22s to any nation, allies, whatever, they're not selling them. And I think the F-22, I'm not sure, like in a dogfight, because the F-35 is obviously the much newer plane. I still think probably the F-22 in a straight up dogfight probably would beat the F-35, which, you know, that in itself tells you a lot as well, considering there's probably like 20, 30 years between them, you know, the F-22 being the older plane. And yeah, like this video here should do quite a good job. I like this channel quite a lot. They really kind of get into the nitty gritty, show you why, you know, what makes these planes, these vehicles just so dominant, so effective, you know, so powerful. And yeah, this should be a lot of fun. So let's go. This is going to be me reacting to why the F-22 Raptor dominates anything in the sky. Let's do it. All right.
The true reason why the F-22 Raptor can kill anything in the sky.
Man, look at that thing. The maneuverability.
With Russia and China deploying advanced new fighters and surface-to-air missiles, the task of gaining and maintaining air superiority over an increasingly more lethal battle space falls to a small and elite group of U.S. Air Force pilots flying the mighty Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor.
God, just look at this, man. If you went 100 years in the past and showed this to anybody, they would think it was from another planet. They would really think that. I mean, it just looks so futuristic, even though the design is, what, 40 years old, maybe? Ridiculous.
Conceived during the waning years of the Cold War, the stealthy, high-flying, supersonically cruising Raptor was designed to defeat the most fearsome weapons the Soviet Union could hurl at the United States and NATO during a Third World War in Europe. However, with the end of the Cold War and subsequent 1991 collapse of the Soviet Union, the F-22 was left without a mission, or so it was thought. Indeed, the second Bush and Obama administrations canceled the F-22 program in 2008 after only 195 aircraft. 187 production planes were ordered because they made the assumption that high-end, state-on-state conflicts were a relic of the past.
I see.
However, as it's becoming increasingly apparent, they were wrong. Why America needs the F-22 Raptor.
Look at that. Look at that formation.
Now more than ever. Now, with voices on the left and right clamoring for action in Syria, where the Kremlin is propping up its longtime ally, the Assad regime, the Pentagon finds that it has to rely on its tiny fleet of 186 F-22 Raptors if the call comes to establish a no-fly zone or a safe zone in that war-torn nation. The Raptor is the only operational combat aircraft that the United States operates that Washington can rely on to...
Wow, just look at that. Look at the way the exhaust, I know it's not technically known as the exhaust, but just where the engine, you know, propels it's just such a cool looking, just the design of this thing is just, whoever designed this plane, just tremendous job.
To take on and defeat advanced air defenses such as the Panzer S-1, S-300 V4, and S-400 that Moscow has dispatched to Syria. Moreover, it's the only aircraft in the U.S. Air Force inventory that possesses a huge performance overmatch against late-generation Russian fighters such as the Su-30SM Flanker H and the Su-35S Flanker E, both of which the Kremlin has also deployed to the region. Our role is to kick down the door, First Fighter Wing Commander Colonel Pete Fessler, a veteran F-22 Raptor pilot, told me during a visit to Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. We are, without a doubt, on the leading edge of whatever force you're going to send because we have an airplane that has a capability that no one else has. Training matters. But while it's important to have the right tools, more important is the human dimension. Pilots and maintainers must be trained and ready to defeat the highest-end threats if they're to be sent into combat. The Raptor pilots, while they're still a critical component, are still just one part of a team. Nothing's going to happen unless the maintainers can get the airplanes running.
Absolutely. I imagine the turnaround time, so once an F-22 lands, the ability to get it, retrofit, whatever you need to do, maintain, upgrade, repair parts, like that turnaround time is critical. How long does it take usually to turn a plane around, an F-22? I would guess a couple of days, maybe 2 days, less. Let me know.
The low observable maintainers can keep the skin healthy, the munitions guys can build the bombs and missiles, and the weapons loaders can get them on the airplane. The air traffic controllers can launch them, intel folks can prep the pilots for the mission they're going to do. All those things have to come together, and if they get out of sync, none of it works. The ultimate insurance policy. In many ways, the Raptor is the U.S. Air Force's insurance policy. While the rest of the Air Force has been preparing for and fighting low-intensity warfare scenarios, as an elite vanguard force, the Raptor fleet has focused almost exclusively on defeating the highest-end threats. We've been focused on the high-end threat all along, Fessler said. In fact, the departure from standard for us is the times we go over to Operation Inherent Resolve, the counter-ISIS campaign, and do the close air support type missions over there. Low-intensity conflict is not our bread and butter. Even since the earliest days when the Raptor entered operational testing in 2002, the F-22 has performed incredibly well in simulated combat, amassing lopsided victories in the air even when flying against the most challenging simulated threats. Advanced Russian fighters such as the Su-35 and the S-300V4 and S-400, it's exceedingly rare for the F-22 to be shot down. Losses in the F-22 are a rarity regardless of the threat we're training against, Fessler said. Why the Raptor dominates.
All right.
Indeed, one of the problems for the F-22 is to generate enough targets and a tough enough threat so that pilots get some useful training. Another problem is that the jet is so capable in terms of its sheer speed, acceleration, stealth, sensors, and maneuverability, it actually compensates for tactical errors. It makes up for a lot of shortcomings in the pilot side. You can have a really bad day and the airplane will still do phenomenally well.
I do wonder, how far away we are from completely making pilots almost obsolete. Because I remember reading something about an AI system that actually they put it in like a simulated dogfight, and I believe the AI system beat out some pilots. I think if you Google it, you'll find it. But I don't think, I would have to guess we're probably at least a few decades away from that. But yeah, because I imagine the pilot is still probably the most vulnerable part of the package, because the plane doesn't need to sleep. It doesn't need to rest, does it? As long as it has enough fuel, it can just go forever, can't it? So that, yeah, it does make me wonder how long are pilots going to be needed for, operating planes like this.
Said one senior F-22 pilot who goes by the call sign Crash. Just because you win the fight doesn't mean you did well. Just because you lost doesn't mean you screwed up. We build scenarios to track that. So there are times when guys will die in training when they did everything right. And there's other times dudes are screwing up left and right and they're completely successful. But in this airplane, it's much easier to survive. Because the jet is so capable and the pilots are the elite of the elite, the Red Air has to effectively overwhelm the Raptors with sheer numbers. Crash described one scenario where 4 F-22s took on 10 fourth-gen enemy aircraft similar to a Su-35 simultaneously, and which regenerate or come back to life. A little bit more than your typical fourth-gen, Crash said. We're not training against things that are not operational yet. We're fighting against the most advanced operational threats we can. Typically, the blue F-22s will slaughter the enemy from long range. Indeed, as Fessler notes, if an enemy aircraft has survived to enter the merge or visual range combat and finds a Raptor, something has gone terribly wrong. That usually leads to an intensive debrief to understand what went wrong. Indeed, all of the pilots I spoke to unanimously told me that the debrief is the most important part of a training sortie. Nonetheless, F-22 pilots train extensively for a visual range fight. We usually train full up versus full up, Crash said. We assume that a Western-trained F-22 is going to be the most challenging threat we're going to go against.
I wonder, how much training before you get the green light to fly an F-22, how many hours worth of training must a pilot go through? It's got to be considerable, right? I'd have to guess at least maybe something like 3-4 years, I imagine. Let me know in the comments.
A big upgrade and something needed. One recent addition to the Raptors at Langley is the new Block 3.2A Update 5 software. At long last, the new upgrade adds the Raytheon AIM-9X Sidewinder high-off bore sight missile, something long coveted by the F-22 community. The addition of the AIM-9X is a huge improvement for the Raptor.
That's a big
The addition of the new weapon greatly increases the F-22's already formidable lethality. That's even though Upgrade 5 is an interim capability. The AIM-9X and the Raytheon AIM-12OD AMRAAM missiles will be fully integrated onto the Raptor with the Increment 3.2B upgrade, which is yet to be fielded. The one thing that the F-22 is still lacking is a helmet-mounted cueing system, HMCS. That would be used to exploit the outer edges of the AIM-9X's capabilities. It's a feature that's common on most U.S. fighter aircraft and most foreign ones. The lack of such a system would normally place the Raptor at a severe disadvantage in a dogfight.
So it can do air-to-air refueling, so that means it can just fly indefinitely, right? Depending on how the pilot is. Man, this plane is a beast.
If the aircraft didn't perform as well as it does. The Air Force is still planning on adding such a helmet-mounted cueing system to the F-22, but pilots at the 1st Fighter Wing say that's not an absolute necessity. The Raptor can usually dominate a fight even without such a system. Indeed, as Fessler noted, even without the AIM-9X or a HMCS, F-22 pilots often close into gun range and ambush other jets in visual range. I can sneak up on a guy, Fessler said. In the F-22, I convert on guys, and they never even see you there. You roll up right behind them and go, why waste a missile when you have a gun? Ultimately, as the U.S. Air Force's only dedicated 5th-generation air superiority fighter in an increasingly hostile world, where the threat grows more challenging every day, it's in the service's best interest to ensure the Raptor remains as capable as possible. Right now, the Air Force is slated to equip the F-22 with a helmet-mounted sight by 2020, but similar efforts have fallen prey to budget cuts in the past. The helmet would be awesome to have, but it's not a game changer for us, Crash said, but a helmet-mounted sight would help us a lot.
Look at that view. Just the aesthetics on this thing. It's a beauty. Yeah, I have to say the F-22 has to be probably the best looking fighter plane just at the moment, just hands down. It's just, and not only is it great looking, it's just so capable as well. I mean, it's almost like the perfect fighter plane. Obviously there's 6th gen planes in the works. You know, the UK has its Tempest program at the moment. You know, but at this moment in time, yeah, it's hard to see anything beating the F22. It's just, like I mentioned earlier in the video, whoever designed that thing deserves a round of applause because they just did a tremendous job. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, turn on bell notifications, and keep throwing the recommendations my way. I know I say it all the time, but they genuinely help me out because if I know you enjoyed watching something, I'll definitely enjoy reacting to it. So like, subscribe, turn on bell notifications, keep throwing the recommendations, and I'll catch you in the next one.